It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to another live episode, Sunday Night Live. Got a special treat for you on tonight. Our guest will be the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClelland. He is a native of Mississippi, and in case you had not heard, it just passed through legislation this evening. The state of Mississippi has voted to not only take down the Confederate flag, but they will have a new design to be voted on by November, this election process. They have 15 days to take down the Confederate flag that hangs over the state of Mississippi. A change is going to come. What a time we're in right now. As we stated, we got a lot to talk about. Of course, the addition of Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, and other things that are going on throughout the world of collegiate athletics, professional athletics as well. With that being said, we're going to jump right into today's episode of the Mike Prince Show. Well, what can you say? Who would have thought that all these things would be going on that are going on right now? And I tweeted earlier today, I hope that this movement does not change into a moment. By that I'm saying, let's not stop because we have some moral victories. We have to go all the way through to the finish line. A monumental day in the state of Mississippi. Dr. Charles McClelland will be our scheduled guest. We'll talk to him at 6:06. But in the world of athletics, the NFL has canceled the Hall of Fame game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've canceled the Hall of Fame inductee ceremonies, which is sending off a code red. You have earlier the week, Morehouse canceling all fall athletics. Houston Tillerson canceled all fall athletics. And virus positive counts are popping all over the nation, in particular that of the state of Texas and Florida. You would think that sooner or later the games will stop being played and we will take a real bite out of this entire situation and just shut it down for the 2020 season. In particular, that of the HBCU concerns, because we know that this virus is hitting the African-American community totally different than it is of any other community. Whether the young folks are not having symptoms and signs, but they're bringing it to their older loved ones, and it is really running rampant. But we'll get into all of that in just a moment. We're going to take us a break, and when we come back, we'll have the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference on the line with us, none other than Dr. Charles McClelland. You listen to the Mike Prince Show live, Sunday night edition. Keep it where you got it, and we will be right back.
The station designed with you in mind for all your local sports news, information, and updates. Keep it locked right here at 87.9 FM, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers, besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
We'd like to take this time to recognize our sponsors and supporters at the Open Mic Broadcast Network: Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union, Temple of Refuge Ministries, Prairie View Athletic Club, Attorney Lee Van Richardson, Farmers Insurance of Hempstead, Texas, Diva Skin Conditioner, Helping Hands Lawn Service. Thank you for your support of our local and regional coverage of student athletics here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wackenmaster Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association, or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacalumuniassociation@yahoo.com.
Revelation won't be in the form when the conversation first came up. But reparation for Dallas State, Jackson State, all and the other HBCU coaches out there, you know what it would be? Let the state come through and pay those coaches like it's supposed to be. Whatever Dallas State can do, whatever Arkansas Pine coach and all foreign coach who can't do for the coach, let the state chip in and do what they're supposed to do. All these states, because it's just not Mississippi that got in blacks in Mississippi and HBCUs in Mississippi. They got the shoulder and the stick across the long length of time. It has been all of them that have gotten the short end of the stick, whether they admit it or not. There's some challenges out there on all the HBCUs. And now, have they done good? Yeah, they've done good. But have they done what they're capable of doing? No, they haven't. And they haven't because of the funding that they have been receiving.
And welcome back to the Sunday night live edition of the Mike Prince Show. You heard a representative of the Mississippi community talking about reparations and everything. Once again, in case you had not heard, the state of Mississippi has just voted to have the flag that represented the Confederation to be down within 15 days, and they'll be voting on a new design. We have our guest on the line who is a native of Mississippi, and in case you did not hear it, had a very powerful testimony on the flag on a day of meeting at the Capitol. We're going to introduce to some and present to others none other than Dr. Charles McClelland. How you doing, sir, and welcome back to the show.
Doing fine, Mike. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, we appreciate you having, and I know that Bethune-Cookman and the FAMU thing has been the buzzword, but with what has just passed a couple of hours ago with the coming down of the Confederate flag over the state, and got a chance to hear your testimony on you and your mother's experience, man. With you growing up in that area, because when people have not grown up in it, it's a total different impact than just seeing it from afar. What significance is this day for you personally, hearing that news?
Well, it's historic, Mike, for the state of Mississippi, the state out of all 50 states with the highest population of blacks It's a long time coming. I don't know if people really know the historic perspective of the flag in the state of Mississippi, but back when the Civil War ended, as you know, there was a concerted effort of getting the African Americans into the state legislature, and they were primarily Republicans. And that was one of the rebellion items that the Confederate soldiers, ex-soldiers, and flat out individuals that were not for the progression of blacks in the South, they put that emblem as a part of the state flag. So that was, in the late 1800s, 1860s. So it's been a symbol and a reminder of how deep and divisive social justice and racism has been in the state of Mississippi. For him to be the last state out of 50, for it to have to come to this. But again, in 2020, it's historic. It feels good. And I think that symbol of oppression, now that it's gone, will do a lot of healing in the state of Mississippi.
Absolutely. And it's ironic that you would bring up the year 2020, a year that's supposed, or a number that's supposed to represent perfect vision. But no one could imagine that at the beginning of this new year, a new decade, that we would be experiencing some of the things that we experienced. First, the loss of Kobe Bryant. Then we had the pandemic. Then we have the Floyd incident. Now the coming down of the flag. And on the good side of it, the addition in the 100th year of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, FAMU, and Bethune-Cookman. A lot going on in this 2020 year so far, huh?
Yeah, I would agree, and I don't think any SWAC fan will ever be able to forget 2020, both good and bad. We're sitting here with, the worst pandemic since 1921, whatever the Spanish flu hit, and everything is shut down. The economy is shut down. We really had to learn a new way of life, but the train doesn't stop, even when you're at home and even when you're quarantining. Right, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has to do business, and we have to continue to move forward. And don't forget the purchasing of our brand new, although it's not new, it's new to us, 16,000 square feet office building. So when they write the history about the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and when they talk about the 100 years, I think all of those things that you mentioned, in addition to our new building, will be things that they're going to have to point to, just as a reminder of all that was involved in 2020.
Absolutely, and a lot yet to come. And before we go any further, you're going to always have a sticky situation in the role of leadership, because half are going to love what you do, other half are going to question what you do, and no matter what side of the coin you're on, it's going to always stir up conversation. So we know what and how. Well, not necessarily the how part, but why FAMU and why Bethune-Cookman, and how it fits the future plans of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Well, the name brand of Florida A&M, when we initially were approached by Florida A&M, was overwhelming and powerful. They are one of the greatest brands when it comes to black colleges. And you tie Florida A&M to 10 other great brands, the greatest of the greatest, then you have 11 great brands. Somebody sent this information to me just the other day. It was September 1920 at a hotel in Houston, Texas, where the Big Five got together and created the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Prairie View, obviously,
right,
leading the charge. So you fast forward to where we are today, and bringing in a name brand such as Florida A&M, is almost as historic as when the Big Five decided to move up and bring in the other member institutions. We haven't expanded for 20 years, and if you're going to expand, you might as well do it big. Florida A&M is extremely competitive. Florida A&M, from a scholarship standpoint, fits with what we do from an academic standpoint. They bring in a law school. I now have 3 law schools, Mike, within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. What better way to change anything related to social justice than being able to have 3 law schools behind you. So their athletic reputation, their academic reputation, their competitiveness on the field of play, it was just a natural fit. And, you know, they were in Tallahassee, Florida. And I know ultimately what you're alluding to is you're extending now to another state. You're going from Alabama to Florida. As it relates to Prairie View, it's a shorter drive and obviously a shorter flight from Prairie View to Tallahassee than it is from Prairie View to Alabama A&M. So, and actually, in some instances, not in some instances, it's actually technically shorter to go to Tallahassee than it is to go to Montgomery, Alabama. I'm going to say some instances, you know, buses stop and rest and all of that stuff, so you have to put that into the equation. I think from a Bethune-Cookman standpoint, one of the bigger challenges that we had to deal with was the additional 3 to 3.5 hours that you had to go east, and how would that play? But the benefit of Bethune-Cookman now, we have 12 and we can split in divisions. So before I get to that, let's talk about what Bethune-Cookman brings. Bethune-Cookman brings a football team that actually has beat Florida A&M 9 of the last 10 or 9 of the last 11 years. They bring in an athletics program with a budget of $15 million. They'll be second only next to Prairie View. That's somewhere approximately around $17 million. When you look at their ability to be able to compete, they have competed at a high level. They've won multiple championships. Their baseball team is outstanding. Obviously, they have outstanding track teams. Their basketball team has come along. Florida A&M's basketball team has come along. So they're going to be bringing a sports program that ultimately will make us that super conference that everybody's been talking about. You look at how many Division I major black colleges are in the state of Texas. 2. Prairie View, Texas Southern. They're in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. How many in Arkansas? 1. Pine Bluff. They're in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. How many in the state of Louisiana? 2. They're in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. 3 in Mississippi. 2 in Louisiana. Now 2 in Florida. From Texas all the way to Florida, we have every major Division I conference. We have every major brand. And that is significant for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So how did we deal with the travel? Well, with them being a travel partner to Florida A&M, we can now split divisions in Olympic sports, not football and basketball, but in Olympic sports. And the divisions don't cross over. So again, from a Prairie View's perspective, you would never go any further west than the Mississippi River. That's going to save Prairie View money, because right now in some sports you have to cross over, and we had ultimately decided that in other sports we were going to relax that rule. Now we're going to stay true to the divisional rule. When you come to the sport of football, you still will play divisional play in football. So now you'll have 5 on your side, and you only have 3 schools that you have to cross over. Depending on how we schedule, you might not have to go to Florida but once every 4 years. And again, it just depends on how we schedule. You ask that question, how does that happen? 3 games on the other side of the division, the Eastern Division side. So from that perspective, there are 3 teams that you don't play. So theoretically, you'll have 2 Mississippi teams, 2 Alabama teams, 2 Florida teams, and then you would only play 3 of those. So there are some scheduling models that will reduce our ability of having to send you the farthest, and that will always be part of the scheduling philosophy. And then in the sport of basketball, we have to decide whether or not we'll stay with the 18-game conference schedule or the 20-game conference schedule. With Bethune and Florida A&M coming in, that's 22 games, and the max you can have is 20. So the thought process of that is you'll have home and away from the closest teams, technically divisional teams, but we won't have divisions in basketball. So you'll do home and away with Texas Southern, home and away with Southern. If you do those 5 teams, that's 10 games. And then when it's time to go to Florida, you won't do a home and away in the same year. You will go to Florida in year 1, and Florida will come to you in year 2. And that will give us some flexibility to determine which of those games on the other side you want to do a home and away. Depending on, if we do 18 games, you can do 2. If we do 20, you can only do 1. But again, that's going to reduce travel because you won't have to go to Alabama every year. You won't have to go to Florida every year. So Bringing Bethune in puts us in that geographical footprint. Although they are 3.5 hours east of Florida A&M, they create a situation where we reduce the map and we reduce travel time, thus less travel time for student athletes and more class time. I know that was a long answer.
Oh, no, that's okay. Hey, it's your floor, man. You are the man in charge. I'm just a host carrying out the assignment for the listening audience. We're talking with Dr. Charles McClelland, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and you made reference to the scheduling. I know we're just past the mandate for the 8 games in football. Two parts to this question. When it comes to scheduling, is there a certain software that you use, and that you had this 10-year footprint on scheduling? You have to go back and revisit that, obviously. And do you consider now going from 8 to 9 games in football?
Yeah, well, we contracted out with an outside company to do scheduling, and they do have software, so we can put all of those parameters in there, and they'll spit out at least a baseline, and then we'll have to go and do some manual human work to it. So it's going to take time to put it in, but we want to maintain that 10-year schedule. Gives our schools an opportunity to go out and schedule the non-conference games. And when you talk about 8-game to 9-game, the 8-game really was the compromise with the school. Even though you're bringing in 2 additional teams, it doesn't really take away the overall premise of how the 8-game works. That means some teams you play, some teams fall off. It's just 2 additional teams now that you would have to play. The decision to go to 8 games really wasn't about how many teams that were in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, more so how many games that schools want to have as non-conference games. Most schools wanted the opportunity to play game guarantees. They wanted an opportunity to bring in game guarantees, and they also wanted an opportunity to play some rivals, whether that was, HBCU rivals, local rivals, or even from a national standpoint, maybe you wanted to play a PWI maybe in the Southland Conference or the OVC. So that's where the 3 games came in. We'll go back to the football coaches. We'll allow them to have some say-so on scheduling, 9 games, 8 games, 7 games. Because at this point, everything is back on the table. This is an opportunity in 2020, 100 years, for us to be able to press the reset button and take a look at everything. But personally, Mike, I'll have to go back to the football coaches. I haven't heard anything right now that would suggest that we will move away from the 8-game mandate.
Okay, that's fair enough. And, of course, with the blossoming and the growth of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, on the other end, our sister conference or brother conference, however you want to identify them, the MEACs. And like we stated earlier, you're going to have critics from one end to the other. When the growth of the SWAC is somewhat from other people viewing is at the demise of the MEAC. How do you respond to that as far as the naysayers?
Well, I can't respond to the naysayers because every individual will have their own opinion. And I think that's the great thing about where we are and within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Everybody is not going to agree with everything that's done. The one thing that I would say, and I've said this, and I don't think that it's really resonating, but we did not go out and ask Florida A&M to come to the SWAC. We did not go out and ask Bethune-Cookman to come to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. They actually reached out to us because they were doing a study and they were trying to determine what fit was best for them. And we said, if you're leaving the MEAC, then the Southwestern Athletic Conference will welcome you. So I would much rather for those HBCUs to come to the Southwestern Athletic Conference than for them to go outside of the Southwestern Athletic
Oh, no
Conference.
doubt at all. No doubt at all. Am I my brother's keeper? And I understand that part totally. It's just like you have some folks that for years had been grumbling, well, maybe we ought to consider dropping Mississippi Valley. And I said no to that as well. If anyone should be understanding and have an extension of come on in and welcome should be the Southwestern Athletic Conference if it fits the footprint and the blueprint of the future of this conference. So you won't have that out of me. I'm just, as I say, I'm just a guy that asks questions. And with that being said, I know that we call Dr. Thomas the Godfather, and he's been a great mentor and a leader. Did it feel awkward having these conversations? Because I'm pretty sure you had to have the conversations about what's coming down the road. And he's always been a forward-thinking leader. And was it awkward to have that conversation with him?
Yes, extremely awkward. And we had multiple conversations that I did not want to have, and I'm pretty sure conversations he did not want to have. But he was Dr. Dennis Thomas throughout. You know, he was professional. He was kind. And, you know, even at the conclusion of Florida A&M, he called and congratulated me on a great addition to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So he's a first-class individual, and he has handled this entire situation, you know, in a first-class manner. But yes, definitely awkward, definitely uncomfortable. And, you know, I'm young to this game. Like Commissioner Thomas is an old veteran, and that is the reason why I'm 100% positive the MEAC isn't going anywhere. I know he has a plan. He built the MEAC. He built the MEAC to a powerhouse. And I think I've heard him say it in all of his interviews. You know, the schools that left, they got their claim to fame by being in the MEAC. So, you know, he knows what he's doing. And,
right,
you know,
right.
He can make sure that the MEAC is taken care of. And I've said this, and I'll continue to say it. The Celebration Bowl is not going anywhere. The MEAC SWAC Challenge is not going anywhere. The MEAC isn't going anywhere. Dr. Dennis Thomas, he knows what he's doing, and the MEAC will be just fine.
Right, and if anybody has the nuts and bolts to hold things together and resurrect the situation, would be Dr. Dennis Earl Thomas. And we know that, as you stated, the MEAC is going to succumb this latest wave. But meanwhile, back over in SWAC country, we know that the leverage now has somewhat shifted, and you got people even referring to the Southwestern Athletic Conference as the Black SEC. And we're just, I guess, we got 5 years left with the ESPN contract. We can't really go back to the table just yet, or can we, to renegotiate how the pie will be divvied up from ESPN, or we have to wait till this is worn out, the contract is worn out?
Well, as you know, Mike, you know, I know in your former life you deal a lot with contracts. You can always go back and try to negotiate.
Right.
The contract is the contract. You know, I've stated this in this entire reorganization from a SWAC's perspective. You know, ESPN is probably rubbing their hands because they know that they have a great product. They've always had a great product, but the product has gotten even more intriguing. And they have us locked up for another 5 years. But, you know, we'll ask them, you know, would they be willing to take a look at it? If not, then we'll just hold it against them 5 years from now.
Pay me now or pay me later. Did I just translate
pay
that
me
right?
now, pay me later.
All
yes,
right,
sir.
all right. You know, I'm a little slow sometimes, but every now and then I'll catch the vision, you know, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're talking live with Dr. Charles McClelland of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. A lot of power moves happening throughout the conference, and the addition of FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, and all these things. You got another classic now, the Florida Classic. You already been the reigning leader of attendance through the FCS for the past 42 out of 43 years. The next question, I guess, would be for those with the addition of Bethune and FAM, and it's duly noted that they approached the conference then approached them. From outside looking in, it seemed like these happened relatively quick. How early and far back do those conversations go to get us to where we have come with both of them coming over?
From a Florida A&M perspective, it started this spring. AD Courtney Gaucher reached out right before the coronavirus started, but I think their conversation started even before. They did a study. They did a study years ago, and they came back and did a study this year. And when he reached out, they had concluded their study, or at least were in the final stages of their study. And their study pointed them towards the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So that was a conversation to say, hey, you know, if we look to move, would you be willing? And again, that was March time frame. There were some back channel communications to some of our presidents, things of that nature, but nothing official. So again, Florida A&M were doing their due diligence, and simultaneously, Bethune-Cookman was doing their due diligence. Bethune actually reached out during the process of Florida A&M to say, we would like to look at the opportunity as well. We've done our own study. The timing of where Bethune started and stopped, to be very honest with you, I haven't gotten that deep into, because we were knee deep in trying to finalize FAMU, and then Bethune came on the radar screen realistically shortly after, but I know that they had started their process. So, once FAMU left, and people talk about, Bethune followed Florida A&M, and I don't think that was the case at all. From my perspective, that wasn't the case. But I do say that when FAMU decided to join the Southwestern Athletic Conference, it pushed Bethune-Cookman closer to the Southwestern Athletic Conference based upon all of the things that we talked about, the travel, the footprint, the Florida Classic, what SWAC brings, the games, the bands, the academics. So, it was widely reported that they were looking at the Atlantic Sun as well, and, football in the Big South. So when you look at the landscape, do we go there, or do we go to the SWAC where we can keep Florida A&M and add the other 10 schools? Their decision was to come to the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
And there you have it. And then there was 12, just like that.
Then there was 12, that's right.
So we got 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other hand. And the people are asking now, would you consider even expanding further if the opportunity presents itself?
Well, and, each interview that I've done, Mike, and I've done about 50 over the last 3 or 4 days, I've said the same thing. I will never say never. We will always leave the door open, but there's a big but. When you draw the circle around our geographical footprint, one of the things, and I think you alluded to this before, one of the criticisms was we don't want to go too far. We're going outside of our footprint. And we were very conscious and cognizant of that. That is the reason why Bethune was a good fit for us. Not only were they a good fit from a geographical standpoint, we wanted somebody that was going to be able to come in and compete immediately. When you start talking about bringing up Division II, that's going to be a 4-year process. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar process. And just because you're extremely competitive in Division II, once those 36 scholarships come to the SWAC and you got to play that 11 or 12 game gauntlet that we have now, those 36 scholarships are not going to go very far. You might win 1 or 2, but you're not going to be a consistent contender. And that's going to, transition to basketball and baseball and softball and soccer and tennis, all of the sports we have. So we now want to bring in individual schools that's going to be able to enhance and grow the SWAC. We don't necessarily want to grow just for the sake of growing. You have to check off all of those boxes. So when you get to that point, our opportunity, and you throw geographical restrictions in there, the opportunities for member institutions to join us are going to be slim because they're going to have to check all of those boxes. So I would never say never, but any individual school coming in, they're going to have to meet even a greater standard now because we have extended to Florida.
Absolutely. And with that extension comes the opportunity of greater sponsorship opportunities. And I know when we hear sponsorship, we like to think the major corporate sponsorships, but throughout the landscape of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, especially with Bethune and FAM being added, there are a lot of what we would call small business entrepreneurs who are doing quite well with degrees from these storied institutions. Are we working on any type of model of including them with the sponsorship opportunities? And if so, how are we reaching out to them?
Hey, my sponsorship package starts at $10, so I don't care how but our ability to reach individuals, we do have a marketing company, Weber Marketing, that's contracted out with the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and we have actually been doing extremely well in this COVID-19 era, even before the addition of FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Once they joined, it's exponentially exploded. So anybody that wants to join up and become a member of the Southwest Athletic Conference, we're open. We have the marketing company. They're reaching out and they're boots on the ground and they're soliciting. But if anybody wants to join, we're open. And I can tell you, we've received, Mike, several emails. Unfortunately, a lot of them say they want to sponsor, but at the end of the day, it's about what the SWAC can do for them versus, a mutual responsibility of both doing something for each other. And that's ultimately what we're looking for. Again, the same way that we're not going to take a school just for the sake of taking a school, we're not going to take a sponsor just for the sake of taking a sponsor. We want to make sure that we can deliver what we promise. And at the same time, we want those sponsors to be able to enhance the brand of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
We're talking with Dr. Charles McClelland, Commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. 12 deep now within the conference, and you've been speaking from day one about your strategic plan about moving this conference forward. And you got 2 additional programs, you've got some new sponsorships, and the opportunities are looking endless at that point. When it comes to the actual product on the fields of competition, now I heard you say about Prairie View with the $17 million, and depending on who you ask, it's 17 in one hand and then it's 13 at another. But you have a pretty big gap from top to bottom when it comes to budgets. And I know you have nothing to do with the budgets, this, that, and the other. But as a commissioner, how would you rate and measure success overall as a conference from your seat?
Again, our model is different than other FCS conferences. We are not built for the FCS playoffs. We're built for the Celebration Bowl. The Celebration Bowl is a national championship. It's a bowl payout. And when you're building your conference, you're building it to be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So what we're trying to do from a football perspective is enhance the brand, be highly competitive internally, which will allow us to get additional sponsorships, bigger television contracts, and we grow our brand. What we want is to be able to go into that Celebration Bowl and win the Celebration Bowl. Simultaneously, set to the Celebration Bowl, if we do all of those things, then we will have teams good enough to be able to go to the FCS playoffs. Adding Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M, I can foresee one of our 12 schools being good enough to be able to go to the FCS playoffs because they just missed out on the Celebration Bowl. So, when you start talking about budgets and overall level of competitiveness, and you mentioned and compared us to the SEC, it's the same in the SEC. You have some schools, i.e. Texas A&M, with the largest budget almost in the entire nation. And you have some that are half of what Texas A&M is. I go back to my Prairie View days, Mike. I had the lowest budget in the SWAC. We were at $3.1 million. And if you recall, we were able to raise that thing, and I left April 1st, but you turn it around, Fraser won the championship that December, and then that year they won the Commissioner's Cup. So it took us about 5 or 6 years to get there. We did that off of $3.1 million. And how we did that was we identified sports that we wanted to be good in. We knew that it was a process to build football. So we started with basketball. And then if you recall, we hired Coach Robinson for baseball. Then we hired Cynthia Cooper for women's basketball. Coach Gillett started winning track. And once you get that winning mentality, it's infectious. Everybody starts to win. And then we were able to get some additional sponsorships. We were able to go from 3.1 to 3.4 million. And then ultimately, Fred Washington came in and Dr. Wright gave him the ability to increase the budget. Ashley Robinson came in and he got a budget increase. And now you have a new athletic director. And I heard your one hand and the other. I'm going with what I saw on paper, the $17 million that he had. And that's how you build programs. Going back to Mississippi Valley State, and you alluded to this, if any group of individuals that should petition for Mississippi Valley State to stay, it has to be Prairie View. If anybody should have been put out of the Southwestern Conference, it should have been Prairie View A&M University. Look where Prairie View is now, and look at where they were just 10 years ago. So Valley will get there, although they're on the lower spectrum from a budgetary standpoint. There are some things that we're going to do to try to work with Valley to be able to get their scholarships up. So from a competitive standpoint, they can go in and they can compete. And there are a lot of similarities to Valley and Prairie View when it came to the budget. So I go all around the world to say we have a strong conference. We have 12 members now starting in 2021 that's going to have a cohesive goal, and that is to be the best, not just in football, but in basketball, in baseball, in all of the 18 sports that we sponsor. And that was the key. Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman coming in, it does make us much stronger than what we were prior to them coming in.
Absolutely. And when you said something in your statement just a moment ago, you have to pick a sport that you're going to build first instead of trying to spread it thin, because the membrane gets so thin that everything just collapses. So I definitely agree with that philosophy that you're talking about. And when we're talking about building, it starts from within, starts at the top of the commissioner, spreads down and go out. And let me say, you're doing a very commendable job, especially with everything that you've enhanced in such a short time. And speaking of enhancement, you made at the opening statement, Prairie View was one of the original members of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And that's a proud moment for me and through all the storms that Prairie View has endured, because when I played, our overall budget was $800,000 for everything. So you know where we were. So, yeah, you laughing. And Texas A&M's budget for football was $2 million. So figure that one out. So that's why I have a compassion for a Valley, and they can get it done. And if the truth be told, Alcorn been manhandling everybody in the conference with a $7.1 million budget, which was the second lowest budget in the conference. So it can be done once you categorize how you're going to get it done. When we look When we look at this from a PV perspective, is there any remote possibility? I know we got the new building coming in. We're going to have a section for the SWAC Hall of Fame. Is there any way we can get a little replica initiated by the commissioner, who happens to be a PV alum, that we can get a little SWAC historical museum in a bookcase or something on the campus of Prairie View in that beautiful athletic complex?
We can get whatever you request, Mike. I'm Prairie View through and through. And once I left Texas Southern and went to the SWAC, all of my Prairie View people, I shouldn't say all, 99% of you forgave me for leaving Prairie View and going to Texas Southern once I became commissioner. So I'm back in good graces, and whatever I'll be doing.
Hey, man, look here. When you got to keep the light on and keep the mouths fed, you got to go where the breadcrumbs lead you, my man.
Yeah, and they led me straight down to 3100 Cleveland Street, too.
Now, since we're talking about revenue, do we divvy up what remains now amongst the two additional, or do they have to wait for a certain period? How does that work?
Yeah, once they come in, they will be coming in at full membership, so they will be eligible for all distributions at that point in time.
Okay, and so the next question is this, Commissioner. What's next for the conference?
Well, I think we have to take this 12 and build a brand, and there's a lot of work to be done, Mike. This is really just the first step. You know, this is the celebratory part of it. But now the hard work begins, and that is getting the media contract up, getting the sponsorships up, working on the overall competitiveness. And we got a lot of momentum going. You know, despite all that's going on with COVID-19 and the social injustice, we've been able to move forward. And, you know, I will be glad when COVID-19 leaves, because it's going to be limitless on the types of opportunities we have once we can really open up and get back out there. But again, we're not going to push it. We're not going to rush it. We'll hold on. It's like gold, Mike. We'll just put it in the vault. It's not going to go bad. The value is only going to go up. So we're going to make sure that we don't rush it. but there's a lot of work to be done. And when everything opens up and we get opportunity to, go, we're at 25, 50% now. We increase it to 75. When everything opens up, we'll be at 100. But look for us to continue to build our brand, be stronger, give money back to the schools, and just be the perennial conference. I mean, you talked about people said we are, just like the SEC. There was a gentleman in the Miami Times that wrote the article that says we are on equal par as related to entertainment value with the SEC and any Power 5 institution. Those are some strong statements. But it's the sentiment that I'm seeing around the nation. We have to capitalize on that. And
yes,
we
sir.
have a plan, and we're going to continue to move forward.
Yes, sir. If you recall our conversation back at Media Day, and I still stand on it, I know that our brand of play is much more entertaining than that of the Mountain West, and I want some of that money. That's what I'm. That's what I'm looking for. Because I think we're duly worthy of it, and especially with the addition of Pham and Bethune-Cookman.
I concur, and we're going to work to get those numbers up. We have the stick now in order for us to be able to go play with the big boys, and that's our goal.
So would you say these two were the missing pieces to further turn up the heat in that area?
I wouldn't say that they were the missing pieces, Mike. We were pretty strong. I just think, they made us stronger. So we were going to get there. I think if nothing else, adding these two institutions will speed, the process up. But, you've added 2 outstanding brands to 10 outstanding brands. And again, I go back to the scenario from Texas to Florida. We have every major Division I black college in our conference. So in the Southwest, Deep South, and Southeast, that's SWAC country. We're going to put up signs in every state. When you leave and when you come, welcome to SWAC country, Mike.
I know that's right. That's
when the mentality comes.
And look, and don't be afraid to hit a couple of them Alabama, Florida, and Texas airports either with those same signs. Now, I do have to ask you this, as this is a PV request now for football season. Don't have us going to Alabama and Florida in the same year. Can you guarantee that?
I can't guarantee anything, but as I stated earlier on the call, the whole plan is about distance. So I think it is going to be highly unlikely that you would have to do both in the same year. But again, I won't never say never. The whole point is to reduce travel. So to have you to go to Florida and Alabama, but you might have to go to Alabama to play in the championship game, right? So,
well, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. That's I don't mind that at all. And look, I appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday evening. Want to ask you this question. Morehouse has made the announcement that they're going to cancel fall competition. Houston Tillerson, I know they're D2s and they're NAIA, but they're HBCU, and we know that this virus has hit the African-American community totally different than it has hit other communities. Is there any close time? I know you gave a drop-dead date of October 17th that at that point, but is there any point or possibility that could be moved up with the way things have broken out here late with the spread of this virus?
Well, the October 17th date was the date that we could push the season back. So if the virus continues to be what it is today, we probably wouldn't start on Labor Day. And I said this too, if Labor Day was today, we would not be playing football. I don't think anybody would be playing football. So we have dates to move it back.
Right.
Each individual institution will have to make a decision whether or not they're going to be able to afford to play based upon all of the requirements that is going to be necessary in order to keep everybody safe. I think Morehouse made an individual decision. Houston Tillerson made an individual decision. There are going to be other schools that are going to have to make those individual decisions. I think you're going to see in some conferences, i.e. the SIAC, where some schools play and some schools don't play. This is not going to be the typical year. It will be atypical. And I think fans are understanding of that. It's not going to be a one brush fits all on this deal. It's going to be multiple variances, and we're going to try to adjust, given the fact that the health and safety of all of our constituents, student athletes, fans, coaches, anybody that's tied to our games, they will be the number one priority, and our decision making will be based upon keeping our constituents safe.
Absolutely, because, with the cancellation of some classic games, and just for clarity for those who are listening, the Labor Day Classic and the Bayou Classic are conference games. And if there is any cancellation, that would have to come directly from your office, right?
Yes, but again, with COVID-19, you saw I hesitated with the yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to force anybody to play based upon COVID-19. So if those games didn't play, they would definitely have to notify the conference. But we would not, step in and say, well, we're forcing you to play. We have a tie-breaking scenario that takes all of those types of situations into consideration, even outside of COVID-19. So if you have a school that played, 8 conference games and another that played 6 conference games, there's a way for us to decipher who gets an opportunity to go. So we will be flexible. We're not going to allow COVID-19 to push anybody into a box.
Okay. Well, look, man, you have been stellar on this evening. Thanking you so much for taking time out of your – man, I just keep getting – the hits just keep on coming. This is my last one, I promise you. This is my last one, and I'm letting you go.
Okay.
I promise you.
All right.
Okay. Going back to the football, we were talking about the strategy for the football approach is a little bit different when it comes to the FCS, and it's almost going to be a twofold question. Our goal is the Celebration Bowl, okay? And if it works out the way we are thinking it would work out, then we could possibly be considered for an at-large invitation for the group of 24 from the FCS football playoffs. My 2-point question is this. Would it matter if we were a part of the FCS system or not to pay that fee to be a part of it if we're not going to participate in it 100%? And then the flip side is, why would they consider us if we've actively chosen to give up our automatic bid?
Well, giving up your automatic bid doesn't take away that you're one of 24 teams deserving to go to the FCS playoffs. And I'm with you on the first question. I had to send the fee in, and I wanted to know why I had to send it in because I gave up my automatic qualifier. So we're on the same page on that. But the fact of the matter is we have to pay the fee, so therefore we must be considered as a conference to be able to get at-large bids. That's our right as an FCS member. So we're not going to give that right up. We gave the right up to the automatic qualifier, but we're not going to give the right up for that. And bringing in more conference schools that have higher rankings when we play each other, it helps us. When we go out and when we play College of Faith and all of those schools, that doesn't help us at all. So if we play our conference schools and we have a legitimate schedule and we get that 6th and 7th win, we're going to have some teams to go to the FCS playoffs because our rankings are going to be high because from a conference standpoint, we're playing each other. We're a competitive conference. So as you talked about, it's a double-edged sword when you play bad teams versus play good teams. If you play bad teams, you're not going to get bids. If you play good teams, you will get bids. We can play all conference games, all conference schools, and get an automatic bid. It's not automatic, get an at-large bid to the FCS playoff.
Sounds like a plan to me, sir. And inquiring minds want to know, what are the fees to be a part of FCS?
I'm not sure.
Now.
I have to go back and check with the accountant. But it's not an absorbent fee. It's something that we can afford. It's not anything that's absorbent that's eyebrow raising. And again, the fee is just to be able to maintain the committees and the travel and administrators. It's nothing that's astronomical. It's just to keep the organization together. The same way that BCS has fees, but they have all of these contracts coming in. The BCS fee is to keep the BCS system going. The FCS fee is to keep the FCS system going. Our system is not as big as FBS and Autonomy 5, so they're not that great.
Now, you just had a buzzword come from me, a formerly economically conscious brother as yourself, when you said they're not nominal fees. So now I'm wondering what you consider a nominal fee. But we're going to let you go on that one, my man. We thank you so much. Any closing thoughts and comments that you have for the listening audience, sir?
Yeah, I do have a closing thought. I was the youngest, most inexperienced athletic director that Prairie View A&M University ever had and ever hired. I was 29 years old, and if you recall, I was a part of the athletic council. I did radio with Charles Porter, Charles in charge. But I was not in the athletic realm. President Hines pulled me out of being in the architecture program. Dr. Sabuni, one of the greatest minds in architecture. She's done a tremendous job there at Prairie View. Pulled me out of architecture. And I was able to overcome a lot of challenges based upon that inexperience. And what we did in about an 8-year time frame was literally turn Prairie View into a contender. We won 17 championships. After that, they won Commissioner's Cup. I say all of that to say there's a new athletic director coming in, and the Prairie View Nation needs to get behind him 100%. Because the only way Prairie View is going to achieve their goal is that everybody's on a united front. So I give my story about where I came from. And if I can get at Prairie View and get the team around me and turn it around, the new athletic director can. So I want all of my Prairie View Panthers to unite and support the new athletic director so Prairie View can achieve its greatest goal, and that is to be the...
Very well stated, sir. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight, man. You be safe, stay out of harm's way, and continue to stay on your ground. And I got to give you this, man, because Prairie View does what?
Produces productive people.
All right, Dr. Charles McClelland of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We are going to take us a break, and we'll come back with the conclusion of tonight's episode. You listen to the Mike Prince Show live. Keep it right where you got it. And we will be right back. I promise. Don't you go nowhere.
The Open Mic Broadcast Network is an independent network that is dedicated to local community programming featuring sports, the gospel, community news, and much, much more. It is our endeavor to keep the community informed, enlightened, encouraged, and entertained. Our continued existence is solely predicated on those who donate toward our cause. The opportunity to give is a very simple process. You can visit our Open Mic Broadcast Network site at obnradio.com, click on the PayPal button, and become a supporter today. For those of you who would prefer to send in a donation, make all checks payable to Open Mic Broadcast Network, OPEN, capital MIC, Broadcast Network, P.O. Box 891, Prairie View, Texas 77446. Thank you for your support. Thank you for spreading the word of the Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics since 2002.
And welcome back to the Mike Prince Live Sunday night edition here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We want to thank our special guest on tonight, Dr. Charles McClelland. Hung in with us for the entire hour. That's a good thing. A lot of good things happening throughout the Southwestern Athletic Conference. A lot of great things happening in the state of Mississippi. Don't forget that you can join us each and every day right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Sunday nights live, 6 p.m. Saturday live from 10 to 12, we have the Carlos Brown Show. We also have She Say Sports with Miss Sandra Stamps. We have the Southland Report by Robbie Robb, Mr. Butler himself. The Delta Report by Brother Terry Coleman. The Barbershop by Brother B.J. Jones. We have a whole lot that we offer here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Be sure to visit the website, obnradio.com. Check out what's going on. Our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram handles are all at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network. Subscribe today and you'll never miss what's going on. We have an on-demand message line, 720-721-1558, and a 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. My time is far spent and I must go. I've got the exit stage left. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. As always, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.